Ooby-doo, it's everyone's favorite boomer and vintage lens enthusiast, and today we're going to look at a pair of wide-angle lenses. And since they're old school lenses from a Brazilian years ago, they're radioactive. Let's wait for that to get a warning. This is the Fujinon that I have this on. That doesn't seem that radioactive. Let's look at this one. Oh, that's really super radioactive. Yep, that's radioactive. Let's let that cool off over there. This is the Canon Lens FD 17mm 1:4 SSC. Canon lens made in Japan. Stops on the f/22. Focuses down to less than 0.25 meters. I think that one's radioactive too. Let's see if it'll clear up. This is the Fujinon, isn't it? Fujinon. ECB Fujinon SW 1:3.5 19mm. Fujifilm Co. Lens Dash Japan. This is a screw mount. This is an FD mount. What does it focus down to? This only goes down to 1 foot or 0.3 meters. So this one focuses just a little bit closer, I like this is multicolored, and the depth of field scale matches the colors, and it's green and white. This one is orange and white. As you can see, they're almost the same length. This one's a little bit bigger in diameter. This one definitely weighs more than this one. Fujinon is a little bit lighter. Okay, make sure it's lined up. Oh, it stopped. Okay. Put that on. Gotta do that. I want to see if this one's radioactive. Let's do this again. Yep. That's damn radioactive. Oh, let's take this off again. When you buy a lens and it's radioactive, usually no one cleans them out or blasts them with ultraviolet light. And you get a lens and you look through it like this and it looks freaking yellow. This one I juiced up with ultraviolet light for a couple of days and it's nice and clear. When I got this one, well, it was clear already. So I was reading that when the lens turns yellow, it's contaminated with thorium salts. Now, they could put thorium in, and the thorium itself doesn't turn the lens yellow. It's the salts, which are some sort of contamination. So I don't know if that's true or not. There's a whole bunch of hullabaloo about it. So I'm just passing that on for what it's worth. So let's put this on. So I went to the 48th Annual Motorama Car Show in North Haldon, New Jersey, which is at the high school. Wow, it was really great. It's a little hazy in the morning, but the sun did come out, and it was really hot. Even though I was wearing a hat, my brain was starting to cook. So I walked around like 5 times. I believe I used this lens first, and I switched this. I have twin A5000s. So I have the M42 adapter, and I put it on one 5000, and I put this on another 5000. So I walked around with this hanging around my neck, and then I put this in my gadget bag, and then I walked around with this hanging around my neck. I didn't take the exact same pictures. They took very similar pictures. So how did they fare out? Well, first you're going to have to watch the Canon, right? A separate movie, and then you're going to watch the Fuji, a separate movie. Otherwise it'd be too long. So I'm trying to keep it brevity. And then people who are Canon aficionados, well, let's watch the Canon and say, oh, screw Fuji. And people who are Fuji aficionados, well, let's watch the Fuji and skip the Canon. But people who are on the fence or don't know, they can watch both. Now, I paid over $400 for this like a year and a half or 2 years ago. And I paid slightly over $500 for this just recently. But I'll tell you something scary. I see these, the Fujinon, going for $1,000. Oh my God, $1,000. Well, both these lenses are fine performers. I mean, they take excellent pictures. Stop down the f8, they're beautiful. You know, of course, I was in bright sun, and I got some slight sun flares, but it wasn't objectionable. Although each one of these lenses has a critical angle, whereas the sun is exactly that angle, you get these big giant flares, which is you can either be artistic or annoying depending on your point of view. So this one's the f4, this one's 3.5, this is 19 millimeter, that's 17 millimeter. I like both of these lenses because they're rectilinear. They don't introduce their own distortion like pin, cushion, or barrel. It's strictly the distortion of perspective where lines meet at infinity. And if you pixel peep, they're both really nice lenses, center and off axis. But this is APS-C sensor, so you would expect that. So what's the bottom dollar? Bottom dollar is if you're a Canon guy, get the Canon. You ain't going to go wrong. If you're a Fujinon guy, get the Fujinon, and you ain't going to go wrong. It seems to me that the Canons are a little bit cheaper than the Fujinons. The Canons come in FD mount, and the Fujinon comes in the M42 screw mount. Now, you see this little, there's a little tab right here. See that little tab there? If you don't put this on a Fujinon body, if you try to screw this on a regular Pentax M42 screw mount, that little tab is going to hit the body, and then you won't be able to turn your aperture ring, and you won't get infinity focus. But if you use the photodiox adapter, the diameter of the adapter fits on the inside of this tab, and you can screw it all the way down, use your aperture ring, and get infinity focus. So you got to keep that in mind. Some people, they say just buzz it off, but you don't have to if you buy the right adapter. Like I said, I like both these lenses. I think they're action picture takers. They're still wide angle even on a crop sensor. You know, if you divide by 2 and then add it, they're still 28 millimeter or less, which is still a wide angle equivalent. So they both got that going for them. Of course, I try and get the best copies I can. This one has a little scuffed up enamel, but it seems to be perfect otherwise. I really like this lens. This one was a near excellent, new minus. I bought it. And so, gee, I think I got a bargain compared to what the prices are. But, I mean, if you don't have that sort of, want to make an investment in a bunch of lenses and do tests, either one of these will be good. And it's like I always say, if you're going to get one vintage lens, either one of these could be your one vintage lens that you could shoot. And you'll feel very pleased with both of these. Resolution-wise, color-wise, freedom of aberrations, when stopped down. They're slightly ever so soft, wide open, but it's not horrible. And if you stop down at this goes down to f22, this goes down to f22. So if you really, really, really need that depth of field, you can stop down. Of course, diffraction kicks in. Say this is a 19 millimeter, you stop down to f22, well, you're talking about a 1 millimeter aperture opening. That's like pinhole territory. Same thing with this thing. So this is going to how it's going to be. First, we're going to look at the Canon slideshow of the car show, and as a separate video, you can get to look at the Fujinon slideshow of the car show at North Haldon. It's a really nice show. It cost me $5 to get in. There had to be over 200 cars. Some I never seen before. I always like to go to a car show where I never seen a car. That's pretty cool. Or rare cars that, strange cars that you don't see much of. And then you can always gab to the guys. They like to talk about their cars and how they got them and all that good stuff. So car shows are pretty cool, and it's a pretty big thing in the state I live in the summertime. So without further ado, let's jump right into it, shall we? I have found that this Canon FD 17mm 1:4 is really worth its money. There's no doubt about it. people say, but you get a zoom lens 17 to 300 or 17 to 200 or 17 to 150 for less than this is. Well, you know what? Zoom lenses are good, but they're not that good. All zoom lenses have distortion on the wide end and the tele end, and they have to make compromises. Some are really good. I have some of them that are really good. But, you know, if you want to get one vintage piece of glass to try out and take pictures with, you can't do much better than the Canon FD 17 millimeter. Now here's a bunch of pictures. I went to a car show in North Haldon on Memorial Day weekend. Sure, it was a sunny day out, and I was using the ISO 200. I was still using the fast shutter speed. I stopped down to f8. So I noticed that the only thing I was changing pretty much was just the shutter speed. You know, I dial it in depending on the conditions, and I was very happy with these results. And even if you look at the B pictures, which are pixel peeping pictures, this thing is nice. This thing is really nice. It is nice. It's a nice lens. It's a little pricey, but you know, hey, you know, you got to pay for quality. Although you can always find a value somewhere. There's always someone who gets one somewhere for 20 bucks attached to a camera or something. But you know, that serendipity or depends on luck. Whereas I just haunt the used market online, and then I buy something that's in a better condition or best condition. That's all. So I'm willing to play it primo for convenience and maybe get a guarantee of the quality. So, you know, car shows in summer are pretty big, and there's a lot of car shows I've never been to. And I start, you know, going to some, and I like seeing like these old cars. And since I'm a boomer, I grew up with a lot of them when I was a kid in like the 60s or 70s. A lot of these cars are still on the road. I mean, the older ones from the 50s, 40s, and even 30s. And then through the 70s and 80s and 90s, I walked up with all the newer stuff, the imports. And you can see the cars shows have a lot of everything there. Some car shows are only classics or vintage, and some are open to anything and everything. But this lens, look at, there's no distortion on these lenses. Look at the lampposts or in far shots, or the lens doesn't introduce any of its own distortion. It's just a distortion of perspective that you can't get away with. Even if you used a pinhole, you would still get the distortion of perspective, but straight lines stay straight. So there's that. And I say you got to get one of these. I highly recommend it. All right, I'm a Canon guy, but you know, that's just the way I roll. But I recognize other lenses that are just as good. Now, I did a companion shoot at the same time with the Fujinon f3.5 19 millimeter, and I took very similar pictures at the same show, but they're in its own slideshow. So keep that in mind, that you know, if you're on the fence, you don't know which lens to get, you can look at both these videos. Remember, this is the Canon, and the next one's going to be the Fuji, and you could decide yourself. I've come to the conclusion that they're almost virtually identical. Almost virtually identical. So what does it come down to? Availability, price. The Fuji's just a much more expensive lens, and they're hard to come by. You know, I was lucky. I was one of my favorite used lens sites, and there it was, and I picked it up, and now I don't see it anymore. Although they're on eBay, you know, at double the price. But the Canons are readily available and for less than the Fuji. And plus, you gain a couple millimeters of wide-angleness. And what's the difference between f4 and f3.5? It's minor. I mean, for shooting in the daylight. So, you know, and they're both radioactive. Not without a doubt, you got to take that into consideration. Or you're afraid of radiation. If you're a young person, maybe you should stay away from it. If you're an older person, well, then it doesn't matter. But the Canon is a fine performer. Especially this is a 20 megapixel camera, and look at, you know, pixel peep on the B sides, and it's fine. So just to see if you could find one cheap, pick it up. If you want to go through the used vendors online, well, you could just keep shopping around for, instead of getting excellent, you could get very good or good or a bargain. And then, just as long as it works, it doesn't have to look perfect. Without a doubt. Oh, this show cost $5. It was well worth $5 or 200 cars there. And here's the modern vets. They had a vet row. They had a Mustang row. Look at this guy's life. Mustang, it says on his license plate. So what's the bomb dollar? You could get one of these and you could feel very pleased with its performance. I highly recommend you get one, without a doubt.